Hi, this is Tim Luke from the state of South Dakota. I'm a truck driver. I came to the state capitol in Pierre this week to talk to legislators about Glass-Steagall and Nawapa. And it's been really, really fun. I'm getting a lot of great responses. People are, understanding what Glass-Steagall is and what it means. And they're looking at Nawapa, as a real solution. What motivated me to come this week is I had gone to Cracker Barrel where there was a panel of state legislators mostly discussing budget cuts. The people in the audience were mostly teachers and people concerned with the Medicaid system. Those seem to be the two hot-button issues in South Dakota that revolve around these budget cuts. A friend of mine who is a new member in the House this year was there, and when I first went in before the meeting started, I said, "How are you doing? How's the budget cutting going?" And I said, "You didn't get elected to the legislature to be Hitler, did you?" And he said, "Oh my God, no." And I said, "Well, what are the solutions?" And he asked me, "Well, when are you coming to Pierre?" And I said, "Well, I could come to Pierre this week." And he said, "Well, what kind of ideas?" I said, "Well, I'm a treasure trove full of ideas." And I said, I will come to Pierre." And he said, "Good." He said, "You can come to Pierre, and I'll introduce you around, and you can, we can talk about it." And right now we have a window of time where these people are looking for solutions because they don't want to destroy people's lives. And when you get them to realize just the history of it and what really the American system of economics is and how you apply it to a project like Nawapa, I mean they can't get enough. They want more information. They start thinking about it because they're very, very concerned of what they're doing. I mean, these state legislators are real people. They're just ordinary people, most of them, that want to do something good. And I said, "Well, you didn't become a legislator to, legislate life and death. And if in the absence of a concrete solution, because the end result is obviously, legislating life and death, which, really the end result of fascist policies, as in Hitler's worthless, useless eaters policy, and genocide. So basically, we're faced with those two things: fascist policies and genocide, which are not really American policies. So, we need to change the debate from are we going to cut this or are we going to cut that to what are real solutions? How are we going to produce our way out of this? Something that strikes me as really appalling is I've asked them if they've read this Angelides report. And not a single legislator that I talked to this week, and I probably talked to a dozen of them at least, had read it. Which it really strikes me as, here's our leaders. They're not stupid people, and they, the people I've talked to are genuine people that care, and they do not like the situation that they're in. They don't want to legislate life and death. So what I've done is to ask them how they feel about what's going on, and get them to realize really what the end result of what if they go ahead with this budget cutting thing, what the end results are going to be. And they realize that if they're in the absence of a real solution, that we're just in this downward spiral that is just going to kill us all. So when they realize that, then I just give them a history lesson. I say, look, let's go over some history. At the end of the Revolutionary War, we were a confederation, a loose confederation of states, and Alexander Hamilton really was the driving force behind what became our Constitution. And so through Hamilton's driving force to establish a federal government and the Constitution, I explained that the states after the war were all broke so they were in a similar state of affairs that we find ourselves in today, not caused by the same thing, but similarly they were all broke. So what Hamilton did was create the Constitution, embed the American system of economics into it, and take that debt, turn it into credit, issue credit to the First National Bank of America. And they in turn loan money to farmers and manufacturers and industry, and we produced our way out of the debt and were able to pay it off. Every time that principle has been implemented and employed, we've been able to do great things. After they understand this, I say, okay, so in 1929 when the market crashed, we find ourselves in a similar position that we are in today. Only in 29 we weren't globalized. So today we find ourselves in even a worse predicament because it's a global crisis. So therefore, without a global solution, little South Dakota looking at its budget cuts isn't going to fix any problems, is it? And they see that. They well, no, it's not. Okay, so what's the solution? Well, we do the same thing that was done in 1933. We implement Glass-Steagall, and then I explain Glass-Steagall to them that it's a policy that protects commercial banks for the loaning of money or the uttering of credit to produce manufacturing and industry and innovations and new discoveries and science and everything that's real, that has a real physical value, that is that we protect those things. And what is and then on the other side, you don't protect the investment, the gambling houses. If they want to gamble, and if they want to have a casino, then they have to stand or fall on their own. There's no protection. So once they understand Glass-Steagall, I've had a couple people say, well, gee, what happened to Glass-Steagall? So I give them a history of, look, here's current history. Through the Nixon administration and the Carter administration and the Reagan administration and the Bush administration and the Clinton administration, through this period of time, we were on a march to deindustrialization, which everyone understands. So we were on this march to deindustrialization, and along at the same time, we were on a march to deregulation. We deregulated the trucking industry, we deregulated the healthcare industry, we deregulated the banking system, virtually everything. And that that brought us to where we are today. And then they realized that, wow, if Glass-Steagall had never come down, we wouldn't really be here looking at destroying our population, would we? And I said, no. So what the solution is, then, is to reinstate Glass-Steagall. And they, some people say, well, that's a federal thing. I said, okay, it has to be done through Congress, but you're sitting here looking at these budget cuts. Isn't it really a local issue? Really? And then they realize that it is. So I tell them, look, you're the constituency of our congressman, right? You can pick up the phone and call them, right? And get through. And they say, well, yeah. I said, well, me as a citizen, I don't have that access. I can get a hold of one of their aides. So I explained that, look, you're their direct constituency, and since you are accessible to me, I am your direct constituency. So that's what we need you to do, is we need you to put pressure on our Congress to do the right thing. Just a solution gets them excited. When they have the history and when they have the solution then in front of them, all those things will come. But I have not talked to one legislator that I've been able to present a view of history and a view of the American system of economics and NWAPA as a platform for that. I have had not one negative response, not one. I talked to a guy today who a legislator I talked to yesterday suggested I talk to. He said, well, yeah, you really ought to talk to him. He said, but you're going to have problems with him. He's not going to be receptive. He's a I guess traditionally what you would call a conservative Republican that wants to get rid of entitlements, and he's got the scissors in his hands, right? And he's going to use them. And I met with him today, and that was actually, what he wanted to talk about. Well, all these entitlements, and this and that and all, big government and the whole party line, right? And I said, well, that's all good and fine. We need to find waste and fraud in our system and get rid of it. That's all good. But let's put that aside, and let's do some history. So you give him a history lesson, and he readily understood it and agrees. And then when you put NWAPA in front of him, this guy who I was told that would never that I was going to have big problems with it, he was never going to accept it. And I was actually wondering, since he was Mr. Scissors, how he would respond to the fact that when you install Glass-Steagall, throw away the debt, and save the states to bridge the gap to NWAPA, he went right past all those axioms and accepted it without question. And to date, he is the most enthusiastic, gung-ho guy to pass Glass-Steagall and build NWAPA, which I thought was pretty incredible. I tell him, look, you are our leader. And this is a global crisis that little old South Dakota can't solve on its own. So you need to be talking to other legislators in other states. And you need to be talking to Thune. You can pick up the phone and call Thune and then tell me what he says. And look, get this out in the public. The public will rally around you. I said, look, when I went through the fascist policies and genocide of the result of the cuts, and he understood it. And I said, look, you can be a hero instead of a Hitler. And he like I say, he's gung-ho. He's totally on board. And he was the most enthusiastic, gung-ho guy I've talked to yet. And I've talked to some really pretty thoughtful people. I haven't found one person that when they understand the history and they understand the principles and they understand the real value of what these solutions are. If they disagree, they need to go. So, for instance, I told one senator, he said, after I had presented the information, he said, well, it sounds, he said, well, I'm sure Obama isn't a supporter of this, is he? And I said, well, let me put it this way. If we can pass Glass-Steagall through Congress, and he won't sign it, then I guess we have to implement the Section 4 of the 25th Amendment and remove him under mental incapacity. And he said to me, yeah, and about a dozen other things at least. So that's where these people are at. They're not going to let anything stand in the way. I am sure. I don't have a crystal ball in my hand, but I have more than 5 senses. I have insight, God-given insights, and I have my God-given gifts and talents, and I can tell you for certain that this is going to snowball, and we could be looking at a situation as what's happening in Ireland with the Sinn Féin, from going to an obscure, small group of people outside the mainstream of thinking to passing Glass-Steagall and restoring America overnight. I think we can get this done virtually overnight. I think once it gets out into the public and it becomes the debate, there's going to be no stopping it. And I think a lot of these people are going to when after they have had a chance to research it and really think about it and digest it and really look into their souls, I think that they're not going to accept these budget cutting when they have the solution in front of them. And I think the sooner we can get it into the population as a debate, instead of debating what's going to be cut, and start to debate what's the alternative with the solution that we have, there's going to be no stopping it. And I mean that's what I've been doing, and I like I said, I've not one person that I've been able to give an entire presentation to. Not one. I've had not one negative response, and they are eager. They are eager to watch the takedown of Glass-Steagall, watch the interviews with the engineers and scientists and conferences on NWOPA. And so I wrote up a little email letter reminding them of the global crisis that they are dealing with, not a little local South Dakota issue, and the gravity of the situation. And then I give them a link to the Angelides report, the film, the documentary film on the takedown of Glass-Steagall, the history of it, and then a link to the NWOPA page with all of the vast amount of information that we have available. And so next week I'll be following up with the people I've talked to this week, and I will be going into these budget cut hearings and testifying that there is a solution other than destroying people's lives and destroying our country. And I will be convincing them that we need to pick up the Constitution, dust it off, paste it back together, and implement Glass-Steagall, throw the debt away. They get it. And so I think we have a real window of opportunity while these legislators are looking at the reality of destroying our country and destroying people's lives, and they have this big void of an absence of a solution. When you put the solution in front of them, it's apparent to them that this is truth. And it's an incredible experience. I've never had so much fun in my life, and I'm looking at being jobless, but hey, this is what I was born for. I'm having the most fun I've ever had in my life. If you can articulate, if you have internalized it and can articulate it, and use the Socratic method of getting people to think it through on their own just by asking them questions, or it's fun. It really is. I mean, it's a fun process, and it's fun to watch people realize that there is a solution, and they don't like Wall Street, they don't like London banks, at least here in South Dakota, which, interestingly enough, started this whole banking deregulation in '81 with the advent of Citibank coming here. And I think since the banking deregulation started in South Dakota in 1981, that it's very fitting that we end it here. I guess, like I say, my mantra that I've been using: you can be a hero, not a Hitler. I talked to this legislator today, and when I talked about the Bretton Woods being taken down, and she said, I've speculated on currencies, and she speculated in the market. And when she realized that what she had been doing without knowing it, and when she realized what she had involved herself in, she literally was shaking in her boots. She began to shake. I mean, she was literally just shaking. That was a real experience, to be talking to a legislator shaking in her boots, before just an average citizen. I think we can really we really have a window of opportunity here with these people actually contemplating what they're actually doing, and they may not be actually conscious of of that this is genocide, that this is. I mean, they not be maybe consciously thinking it in those terms, but they know something's very wrong, and if we don't fix it, it's just going to get worse. And they're actively looking for solutions. And when you get them to think through the process and realize what the problem is, and most of them know what the problem. But when you present them with the solution and they can think that through, then that really it really motivates them. And they're really responding to it, and they're really we are gaining traction. And I've only been here for 4 days. Talked to maybe a dozen people or so, and we're getting the job done. So I'm coming to Pierre because I have discovered what the solutions are through your great organization. And so I did, and I drove to Pierre, and I have probably lost my job because I'm coming back next week. But this is way more important. So I'll be here next week. I'll be back Monday, and I will be here until we have Glass-Steagall. God will provide a way for me to do that. I have no doubt. It's a lot of fun. It's the most rewarding. It's the most rewarding thing I've ever done. And I have to give credit to this fellow who introduced me to the Roost Pack. I've never been happier in my life. It is so rewarding. It's amazing. It's really amazing. Incredible.